I'm so sorry I almost shot you. I probably wouldn't have.
Hey, no, I totally get it. I'm sorry I let you get attacked by a werewolf and then ended the world. Hello and welcome to Two Guys, One Necronomicon, a weekly horror review podcast where we talk about movies like your 70s classics to your modern day trash. We'll be delivering to you offbeat color commentary every Monday at 6 a.m.
Yes, scene by scene commentary as we take you through an entire film and then give you a score on a rating of 1 to 10.
Some say after you listen to our reviews, you don't even need to see the movie anymore.
Yeah, although it'd be nice to give the director and the filmmakers some props.
Yes.
They did work hard on it.
Oh, definitely. We worked a little bit harder.
And we are your hosts, Bryan, Hotboy, LaGrasta, and Shane, Tapeworm Smith.
For the record, I have never had a tapeworm.
Sure.
It's true. I've never had a tapeworm. Don't want that getting out there that I did.
And we have a few updates for you today. So, first things first, we have a Twitter page made. You can find us at Two Guys, One Necro.
Two Guys, One Necronomicon at Two Guys, One Necro, where we are trying to build our following so we can engage with the people that listen to this podcast.
Correct, and we also created a Facebook page as well, Two Guys, One Necronomicon. Please search us out, find us, and interact with us, because we want to have conversations about the movies that we review, prospective movies that we should be reviewing, and if you want to just offer commentary on the way Shane looks, that's cool too.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. We're all ears here.
Just drop us a line, and we'd even love to have you on the show.
Yeah, why not? We could always use another mouth over here.
3 guys or 2 guys and a girl in a book.
Yeah.
In an old crusty book.
Yes.
And today, everybody, you are in for a treat.
Yes, because like we said at the end of last episode, we will be reviewing The Cabin in the Woods. Incredible film.
And yeah, this movie just brought me back to a time where it was like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And I watched the movie for the first time.
Yes, and in that 9-year span, I've probably seen the movie about 15 to 20 times.
At the very least, I'll say, even if you don't like this movie for some reason, you're going to have a good time watching it because it's a lot of fun.
Yes, that is definitely one way to put it.
And this is cool because this movie is, I would say, probably like going to be a modern day cult classic.
I would hope so. This movie has everything going for it. It's funny. It's got some good horror elements. It's a good story. It's interesting.
Let's talk about how hot this movie is.
Super hot cast.
This is one of the hottest films I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
I'm sweating just talking about it, and it's not because my house is like 110 degrees.
Yeah, definitely not. It's not because we're sitting in a hot room baking without AC.
This movie is so hot, Shane's mustache is puckering at the mere thought of it.
We have Thor in this film. Before he was Thor, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, the movie was made? I think it was filmed in 2009 and made in 2011. I don't know when the first Thor movie was made. I think
Thor came out maybe around 2012, so like right around the same time.
Do you know an interesting pairing? So this movie was directed by Drew Goddard, and he's only directed 2 movies. It was this movie and that El Royale movie, also with Chris Hemsworth.
Yes,
but he co-wrote this movie with Joss Whedon.
Oh wait, I knew he co-wrote this with Joss Whedon. Yes, yeah. I did know that.
So you see that Chris Hemsworth connection there.
I like it. Consistent.
So this is a horror comedy, and I would say that it's, while maybe not like completely traditional horror, it's traditional in the sense of you're getting a creature feature.
Oh, you're definitely getting creatures in this feature.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
You're getting a lot of different monsters, and you're going to see a setup throughout this whole movie that really delivers at the end.
Without a doubt. You will not be disappointed with the final delivery. And
the horror is captured and positioned very well with the humor. And it's not even light humor. Like, this movie's funny as hell.
It's very funny. So, Bryan, why don't you just give us the basic plot of this movie real quick?
5 friends on a break from college take a trip to an isolated cabin in the woods where strange occurrences that loom over the cabin and surrounding wooded area are theirs to discover.
It opens up with probably 2 of the funniest characters in the film.
Yeah.
Mr. Hadley and Mr. Sitterson, that's it. The 2 of them are a dynamic duo.
I just want to say kudos to the casting of this movie because you couldn't get two funnier guys to play this part. And these guys kind of guide and steer the audience throughout this entire film.
Correct. So they're walking around, they get some coffee, they're basically shooting the shit, they're talking about a betting pool.
They're at the water cooler, and Shane, anything can happen at the water cooler.
It's true. We both work in offices, so we know the water cooler is a hotbed for conversation.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of Amsterdam talk at the water cooler. But here, they're kind of talking about off-work related topics.
Yes.
All right, so eventually these two characters are approached by an employee named Lynn, who works along with them apparently in their chem department. And she mentions that Stockholm is down, and then now they're only down to the Japan and the U.S.
Yes. And at this point, you have absolutely no idea what any of these people are talking about.
And we're not supposed to. Like I mentioned, she interrupted them, and they were talking about having a great weekend and using power drills and
they talk about betting on something, but you know what they're talking about betting on yet.
Correct. So they leave it very vague, and then we're introduced to our main characters.
Yes. It's two girls in the room, one named Dana, the other named Jules, and they're in like a college dorm, college house type area.
Yeah, it looks like a college upstairs apartment. Dana is played by Kristen Connolly. You may know her from House of Cards.
Or you may know her from Zoo.
And Jules is played by Anna Hutchinson, and she's a 10.
Yeah, that's, 10
in my book.
So is Kristen Connolly, though.
Agreed. Like I said, this movie's hot.
Yeah, the movie is filled with a bunch of 10s.
What we are revealed from this is that she's recently getting out of a relationship she had with her professor, who broke it off with her.
Via email.
You see sketches of him in a sketchbook, and Jules is like, no, we're not doing that this weekend.
Yeah.
Not this weekend,
We are
Shane.
not bringing up the ex-boyfriend teacher. Also, fun fact, Jules has pointed out that she has finally dyed her hair blonde.
Yeah, and this is actually pretty important.
And no, it's very important. That's why I needed to point this out.
One cool thing about this movie is that anything they mention or anything that's referenced comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everything is being built up, like we mentioned earlier in this episode. They mentioned that they're going to go on a weekend retreat to her boyfriend Kurt's cousin's cabin in the woods.
Correct. And that's when Kurt shows up, and the first thing he pretty much does is take a football and throw it straight out of the window, and it is caught by the fourth character, Holden, who you find out is just transferred to the school, and he has like some of the best hands in the league.
They make you know right away that this guy's got great hands.
Yes.
Which to Jules mentions right away to Dana, who's now is on the market.
Mm-hmm.
This guy can get a little handsy, and that's exactly what she needs on this weekend getaway. Now, Shane, I know what you're thinking. We need to go to each other's houses and fling footballs out the windows as greetings more often.
Agreed. This way, our third friend who's outside waiting can catch it.
We'll schedule the whole thing. We'll make a day out of it.
I think that's what people just do in college nowadays.
No!
Oh my! So anyway, after this, I think it's Jules realizes that Dana is bringing some books with her on the retreat.
Yeah.
And it's like textbooks and things like that.
And she's like, well, you can't relax with college books. You gotta relax and have fun, so out with the books.
But Kurt suggests she bring Grahovsky or something like that.
Because Kurt is not only athletic
and
hot, he's intelligent.
Yes.
This guy knows his Soviet economics.
It's true. He is a sociology major, after all.
Correct.
Which is a plot point that's mentioned later.
So as they funnel outside of their college apartment, you're introduced to the fifth main character in this movie, Marty. And what is Marty, Shane?
Marty's a pothead.
Huge pothead. He's actually pulling up, smoking this bong. And this bong is like
a coffee cup.
Like, it's this huge thing. It almost looks like a giant telescope.
Yeah.
And it kind of like positions back into a
coffee cup, so you can't tell that it's a bong. It's kind of ingenious.
Yeah, so like usually like when I'm pulling up, also I travel light, but I travel with the bong.
Yes,
coffee cup
the coffee cup bong combo.
And they're like, whoa, Marty, what are you doing? You know, you're going to get into an accident. And then he mentions statistically, men who smoke bongs in cars are less likely to get pulled over by the cops.
If there's one thing I love about Marty, it's he's a stats guy and a conspiracy theorist.
I actually hate conspiracy theorists, but...
Oh, they're fun, though.
Yeah,
they're always wrong, but they're fun.
Now, don't get me wrong, I like to dabble in tinfoil myself once in a while, but I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a conspiracy theorist.
Oh, I wouldn't either, but I'm just saying they're fun to listen to.
Yeah, but it works here. And he says, you know, they're statistically less likely to get pulled over, and I'm thinking to myself, of course, Shane, because nobody drives a car ripping a ginormous bong.
This is true. So the stats are in his favor because of that.
But he says they fear this man because of his ancient logics.
Oh, foreshadowing. So anyway, they all then pile into the RV.
And this is Kurt's father's RV.
Correct. And they're going to Kurt's cousin's cabin.
They drive off. Nope, they scoot off. Nope, they drive off. It's a drive off.
Yeah, we're going to call it a drive off. And the best part of the drive off is then it pans to the roof and there's just a guy watching them and he reports in that they have left.
They have left the nest. He's reporting in. So right now they're being surveilled? Is that a word? Surveilled?
Surveyed?
Scouted.
So we'll go with scouted.
Okay. So then they're in this really hot bus with these hot actors and actresses and these hot characters, and Marty starts ranting about how it's good that they're getting off the grid because society has a problem, and the problem is that everybody is tracked all the time with these chips and their GPS satellites
and your damn Fogo birds.
And the way that they would fix this is for society to crumble. Like I said, he's a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. Now, scene is going to shift back to our two favorite characters,
Mr. Hadley
and Sitterson,
where we find out they are watching these kids via satellite.
Yeah, and if we haven't mentioned it before, Sitterson is played by Richard Jenkins, and Hadley's played by Bradley Whitford. And obviously, these guys have a tremendous track record. We can't speak enough about how funny they are.
Yeah. Like I called them in the beginning, they're the dynamic duo of this film.
So they're going into their ginormous command center, it looks like, right? There's computer monitors everywhere, and they're approached by a guy named Truman.
Yeah.
He's like a security guard.
He's the security guard, yeah.
And he's new. So he's going to be the audience's tool to find out new and more information about what's going on here.
Yes, because at this point, you still don't know why they're watching these kids or what their job even is.
So they sit down, and you can just see their computers are kind of honing into their position, where the characters are. And what happens now, the group eventually pulls over to what appears to be a gas station. Like, we haven't seen this part a million times in a horror movie.
You don't want to go down that route.
No, you don't. They kind of go inside. Holden looks inside the gas station, and it's like a wreck.
Yeah, there's no one there. He can't find any attendant.
Marty makes a comment. He sees one of the gas machines, and he's like, can we get some barter gas? Which I don't understand.
Well, I think he meant, pay whatever you want for the gas. It's I'll give you $5 for, a full tank. Is that what he meant?
Nah, we're going with that.
Okay, I like it.
So then as Holden's about to leave, because it appears to be abandoned, an old man kind of gets in his way and scares him out of the building.
Ah, yes, Mordecai.
His name is Mordecai, and he just doesn't look happy that they're there, and he just doesn't look happy in general.
No, he's a very angry old man.
Yeah, he's not feeling it. So Jules, and man, I love Jules.
I know.
She asks him if he has directions for them up to Tillerman Road. And the man kind of just hunks this loogie on the floor.
Yeah.
It's like, Tillerman Road, eh? No, he tells him that Tillerman Road will take them up the hill, and the dead end is at the old Buckner place, and where he's seen many people come and go.
He has.
And then he mentions that, this place has been there since the war. Marty makes a Civil War joke.
He says, you sassing me, boy.
He doesn't take this joke very well.
No, they get into a little argument.
Calls Jewel a whore.
He does, and that's when Kurt gets very angry. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't hurt the guy, doesn't attack him. He just takes the cash, throws it at his chest, and then walks away.
So, usually in a horror movie, you're usually presented with these characters that are jerks. These characters, this group of five, they're just nice kids, honestly.
Yeah.
They're not bad kids.
There's nothing to hate about any of them.
So, as Shane mentioned, he flings bills at him for his disservice, I guess. And then they drive off towards the old Buckner place. And as they're driving kind of through a mountainside, they go through this tunnel. And you see a bird flying in the air.
And it hits the invisible wall.
Yeah, so there's a force field.
Yeah, there's a Halo 2 wall for people who play video games.
So they arrive at the cabin, and they start to unpack. When Jules says, get your bathing suits on, because we're going swimming in the lake in 10 minutes.
And they swim in that lake.
4 of them swim in the lake. Well, 1 does not.
One gets thrown into the lake.
Well, Jules does.
Yeah, she gets tossed.
But Marty doesn't go in the lake. And this was not by character design. There's a reason why they don't have Marty go into the lake. And this is a little trivia.
Okay.
It's because his character's actually ripped to shreds. That's why he's wearing baggy clothes and everything. Uh-huh. Because he's the actor himself is actually shredded. And he's playing a nerd.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be shredded.
Yeah, so they didn't want people to get the impression that this guy's just ripped up like pothead.
Okay.
Because he's supposed to be a nerdy character.
And the cool thing about this cabin that I want to point out is very similar to the Evil Dead cabin.
Yeah, I mean, this movie plays homage to so many horror movies, it's ridiculous. Count them. Evil Dead is the biggest one because of the cabin and some other reasons we'll go into later. Friday the 13th. Like, there's a lot of references which we'll bring up.
Yeah, especially when they go in the basement.
Before they go swimming, they're kind of like examining each of their rooms. And there's some odd stuff in these rooms. And probably the biggest one is what's in Holden's room.
Yes, which is a picture of a bunch of people slaughtering a demon goat.
And he's off-put by this. I mean, I would be off-put by this.
Yeah, I don't want to sleep with demon goat slaughter. So he does what any logical person would do. And he takes the painting off of the wall. And that's when he notices that there's a mirror, but it's not just any ordinary mirror. It's a one-way mirror that looks into the room adjacent to him. And what does he see, Bri?
He sees a very hot Dana, and just a Dana who's looking into a mirror thinking it's a mirror. But she can't see him. He can only see her.
Yes, because it's a one-way mirror. So what does she do, not knowing, just thinking it's a mirror? She starts to undress. And Holden's like, I don't know about this.
He gives us a good thought. He's like, do I be a nice guy? Do I let her know? Do I not look? Or do I look maybe with one eye?
Exactly, because it's not a scumbag thing to do if it's only done with one eye.
Are you looking?
I'm probably not looking.
You're definitely looking.
I don't think I'm looking.
Your mustache is saying otherwise.
Wow, I gotta get rid of this thing.
So he actually alerts her, and the whole group kind of sees what's there. And they're like, we're asking, like, what kind of a place is this? What kind of a place does Kurt's cousin have? So it's a mystery. And then the scene shifts kind of to Sitterson and Hadley, and they're watching everybody at this point. They watch them through their rooms.
Yes, there are basically cameras rigged everywhere in this cabin so that the two of them can watch what's happening.
Yeah, they're watching this group very intently. And this is not for their enjoyment. This is like a job that they have.
They are two workers in a giant. Well, I mean, they have a security guard and a chem lab.
They have. We're going to find out they have tons of different departments in this place. This is a corporate
job
headquarters. Yeah. So they're joined by Lynn, and she mentions that she discreetly applied chemicals to Jules' hair dye.
Yes, which is making her dumber.
It's like slowly throughout the movie.
Yeah. So that's why her saying, I dyed my hair blonde finally, is such a... So before they even, went on this trip, these people in this lab have been manipulating them already.
Correct. So they're, it's almost like they're an experiment, and they've been already controlled from the very beginning before they even entered the cabin.
Exactly.
So then Hadley receives a call. From who? From Mordecai, the gas station attendant.
And Bryan, please tell me some of the things Mordecai had to say.
Now, they refer to Mordecai as the Harbinger.
Harbinger.
The Harbinger. They refer to Mordecai as the Harbinger, and this is what he has to say. Have arrived at the killing floor. Their blind eyes see nothing of the horrors to come. Their ears are stopped. They are the gods' fools. And then Hadley kind of says, well, Mordecai, that's how it kind of works around here. Then he continues and he says, cleanse them. Cleanse the world of their ignorance and sin. And then he's interrupted. Because he finds out that he's on speakerphone.
And everyone is laughing at this.
Yeah,
and he's like, wait, am I on speakerphone? And he's like, wait, take me off speakerphone. And so Hadley doesn't, and Mordecai continues.
He goes, the fool nearly derailed the invocation with his insolence. The ancient ones see everything.
And that's when Mordecai's like, wait, you left me on speakerphone, didn't you? And they are just laughing at him.
Out dying. So the scene shifts to the command center, and you see the 5 members of the group, and a heart monitor next to each one. And it's very odd for the audience to witness. And then all of a sudden, Sitterson starts taking bets as people from various departments start just throwing cash at him.
They don't tell you what they're betting on yet, correct?
No, we know that engineering, research and development, electric, and maintenance have all placed bets.
And then the intern wants to place a bet, but maintenance already has that. And he's like, you're going to have to split it with maintenance if it comes out. And he's like, I don't know what to do.
So you're all questioning, what the hell are they betting on?
Yeah, no idea.
What we do find out is that Hadley snuck a bet, but we don't know exactly what he snuck a bet on, only that Sitterson makes a reference to Aquaman.
Yes, and keep that in mind, this plays throughout the entire film.
And then one guy gives him some money, and Sitterson's like, well, I'm not even sure we have one of these. You're going to have to follow up with zoology.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, I already did. They got it.
Yep. This is when the security guard brings up a good point. How can you bet on this if the game is rigged? Meaning that the people in the lab manipulate their choices. And I believe it's Sitterson says, the kids still have to make their decisions for themselves.
Correct.
We just manipulate it so that they get into the cellar. At this point, it's like, what's in the cellar now? Like, what is this? What they're betting on? Like, what's in the cellar?
Exactly. Well, Truman makes a reference if the director knows what they're doing up here, and they're like, well, of course the director knows what we're doing up here.
And I think he basically says the director doesn't care as long as they get the job done.
Correct.
So then we go back to the kids in the cabin, and this is where they're playing a little game of sexy truth or dare.
And Marty as Jules Truth or Dare, and knowing Jules and that super sexy hair dye, what did she say?
Oh, she says dare.
And he's like, I dare you to make out with the moose.
And then the funny thing is, it's not a moose.
Nope, it's a wolf head.
Very easy to make a mistake there. They look exactly the same.
Yeah, he's super high. He's got like that super weird.
I think even if he wasn't high, he still might have made that mistake.
Probably.
So the best part about this is, Jules is all for it.
And does she ever make out with this wolf?
Yeah, she slowly walks up to it. She starts talking to the wolf a little bit.
Oh, who? Me?
Oh, I just dyed it.
And man, does she look good. Somewhere, there's a younger version of Bryan that's discovering fire for the first time.
Oh my god. Now, what about when she starts actually making out with the wolf head? Is the fire still being sparked?
The fire is raging.
Okay.
Like Berlin in this movie, foreshadowing. After she's done passionately making out with the wolf, she gets a standing ovation from the group.
Yeah.
They are, like, lauded by this performance.
I actually stood up and clapped.
And then it's Dana's turn for Truth or Dare.
And Kurt's like, we know what you're going to do. You're going to pick Dare. It's going to be something you don't like. Then you're going to say, oh no, I meant Truth.
Yeah, do you think that she's going to play it safe and kind of go back on a Dare? But she's like, no, Dare.
And then the cellar door flings open.
I think I've seen this before in, like, 1981.
Oh, really? What movie?
Something about, like, some Evil Dead.
Yeah, it's the movie Evil Dead. Yeah, it is.
And Dana gets dared by Jules to go into the cellar, which door just mysteriously opened.
She goes into the cellar, and there is a lot of creepy stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to be honest, definitely kept my eyes open for a Necronomicon during this entire scene.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. We don't see a Necronomicon, but we see something similar.
Exactly. We see a lot of cool things. You definitely see something that resembles Pinhead's puzzle box, except this one is a circle.
It's like a sphere.
You see a ballerina going around.
A music box.
Yes. You see a conch.
The conch shell.
The conch shell.
You see
a necklace, a dress, a diary, and there's just all these things in the background.
You see some pictures of a family. You see dolls, other antiques.
I love this scene. They all end up in the basement, and they all get attracted almost to an item. Like, Kurt has the conch. Dana's going through the diary and flipping through it. I believe Jules is about to put on the necklace.
Marty's looking at the music box.
And then Holden was also doing something. I forgot what Holden was doing, but you get the idea. And then it's like, which one of them is going to activate it first? Because that's what the scene's making you think. It's like, will the necklace go on? Will he blow into the conch? But then Dana's like, wait, guys, listen to this.
And she starts reading from a book. It looks like a diary that she just picked up.
And it's about the Buckners and their family of pain, essentially.
Yeah, we find out that the Buckners are kind of like a pain-worshipping family. It mentions something about a black room where Matthew took Judah.
Yeah.
And the girl who wrote this, her name is Patience, I think?
Yes, it is Patience.
It mentions that her mother's belly is getting inserted...
with hot coals into it, yeah.
...by their father. This is some messed up stuff. Mentions also cutting the flesh makes him have a husband's bulge.
Yes, the husband's bulge. We'll come back later. She's like, and there's this Latin part. And then Marty's like, yeah, don't read the Latin. And then you hear a whisper, read it out loud.
And it looks like only Marty's like hearing the whisper.
Yeah, he's like, wait, did anyone else just
hear you better not read the damn Latin.
So, obviously, she reads the Latin out loud.
They're like, nah, dude, stop messing around, man. You're being a kidder. Like, stop being a 5-year-old. We're gonna read the Latin. We're gonna read the Latin.
And they read the Latin. And what happens? It summons the Buckner family.
Immediately after reading this, all of a sudden they just pop out of the ground.
Yep.
The whole entire family. And they're obviously undead, so they look like kind of like zombies.
Now, I like that you said that, because then the next scene is we go back to the lab, and it's like, oh, maintenance wins it again with the Buckner family. And a woman comes up and she's like, well, I had zombies. He's like, yeah, you had zombie. This is zombie inbred pain family.
Yeah, exactly. There are 2 different species here.
Yes. So now you realize they've been betting on what entity, demon, monster they were going to summon from the basement.
Exactly. And they have like a ginormous whiteboard of a bunch of different possibilities.
Yes. And that's when you also find out Hadley's upset. he wanted the merman to appear, and when the conch, it was so close.
There's that Aquaman reference,
Yes.
and we find out that merman just never comes out.
No, he's like, trust me, you don't want to see a merman. It's a terrible cleanup afterwards.
Yes. And they also mentioned that the pain-worshipping Buckners have a 100% clearance rate. They always get the job done.
So at this point, putting 1 and 2 together, you're figuring out, so their job is to make sure a monster gets summoned and kills all of these people.
Exactly. They mentioned that Japan should just take the rest of the weekend off because
we got this now.
The Buckners are just going to get the job done
Yes.
here.
So it's like, is this like different countries compete against each other? Like,
yeah.
Who can have their monster kill the people the fastest?
We still don't know exactly what's going on.
Yes.
But we get a little bit more involved into what they're doing here.
All you know is it's down to the US and Japan to see who succeeds.
Yeah, because they have 3 monitors set up. Berlin, Kyoto, and Rangoon. And it looks like Berlin's caught on fire. Like,
and it says failed across the screen.
The red bold failed. Rangoon's also reading failed, and it just looks like a nuclear wasteland.
Yes.
And then there's Japan, which is still in play. In Japan, it shows this ghost running around a classroom.
It's like 9-year-old girls.
And they're just like running around. Back at the cabin, Jules is just dancing. Marty mentions that he has a theory about everything that's going on here. And he's so high, nobody's really taking him seriously. So Kurt and Jules, they leave the cabin. They want to take a walk. And then Marty asks Dana if she notices anything weird's going on. He's like, look, Jules is kind of turning into like a slut. Kurt's turning into this alpha man while, he's kind of like an athlete. He's also has a sociology major and an academic scholarship.
Yeah, so he's not this like asshole jock. He's
exactly.
like he's an athlete, but he's like a smart guy too. Like
before Kurt took the walk, he even made fun of Holden. He called him an egghead, which is not something that Kurt would do.
Exactly. Even Holden, all you knew about Holden was that he had these great hands for like sports. Like he just starts wearing these like reading glasses and like he's like all quiet now. And
yeah, so Marty mentions they're puppeteers. Dana's like, puppeteers, and he's like, you say Pop-Tarts? All of a sudden he's really hungry for some Pop-Tarts.
And then he just kind of says, we are not who we are.
Yeah, so he's sorting things out in his head.
And at this point I'm wondering, it's like, why is Marty the only one like kind of realizing this isn't right?
And as Shane mentioned, Holden's got his super nerdy glasses on because he's ready to read some Latin, Shane.
Yes.
And he's like, it's weird how this is all coming back to me because the last time I read Latin, I was like in the 10th grade. And he tells Dana, he's like, even though weird things have happened, I'm having a good time. Dana looks happy and they kind of smile. And then the scene cuts to Kurt and Jules running through the forest.
Yes. And the whole lab is watching this, getting ready for some...
And when he says whole lab, he means all of the men in the lab.
Yes.
Because if you watch horror movies, you know what's coming next.
Yeah, and they are all there watching and waiting to see what happens.
Kurt has a beer in his hand. He spills a little beer on Jules' shirt. And he's like, ooh, did I get a little beer on your shirt? I guess it'll have to come off.
Smooth.
Super hot. So they start making out. And then he starts kind of like unbuttoning her shirt. And then again, you see everybody staring in on this. Like, noise. Everything is moving. And then all of a sudden she's like, I'm getting a little chilly. And she walks off.
And all the guys are just like, fuck it. And they walk away. But that's when they pump in the sex pheromones.
Yeah, they fix the temperature and they add some pheromones. You see it like a little, like just like the gas like pumping out of the ground right under Jules and
then
Kurt.
They shine this light, this like godlike light on this patch of moss.
Spotlight on the grassy knoll. We know someone's been in that grassy knoll.
Yeah, Kurt and Jules
and Shane for a wedding, and they start getting hot and heavy, Shane. And this is obviously courtesy of Sitterson and Hadley with this spotlight that they created. They get busy. And at this point, Truman walks into where Sitterson and Hadley are as they're viewing this. And he tells them, we're not the only ones watching and we need to keep our customers happy.
Yes. And that's the first time you hear that they're airing this for someone. You don't know who or what or why, but you just know they want to see the boobies.
Exactly. And Sitterson mentions, you know what's at stake here. There's a lot riding on this. And he kind of keeps reiterating this phrase throughout the movie. And eventually Jules takes off her shirt.
What's that? What's wiggling right about now? Oh yeah, that's my passion finger.
Passion bump, ooh, passion bump.
Mike G! So, as Mike G would say, this is going to get a 1-point passion bump. Because Jules has been looking good this whole film.
But she's a 10.
Yeah. But this whole scene with Kurt, woo, hot.
So Thor's lifting up his Uru's hammer because he's getting hot and heavy.
Yes.
But their lovemaking is unfortunately interrupted as a dead Buckner walks up to Jules and stabs her in the hand.
And then the other Buckner stabs Kurt in the back when he tries to defend her.
Yeah, and it's really a shame because this could have been a real nice climax here in the middle of the forest.
Yes. Instead is interrupted by an inbred dead family that has a kink for pain.
One of the dead Buckners, he has this like long metallic spike device. He kind of throws it at Jules and it catches her on the back.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, is it just a bear trap on a chain?
Yeah, you're right.
That's essentially what it is,
It's essentially
right?
a bear trap. A ginormous bear
Bear trap on a chain. It's kind of cool. Like I've never really seen like someone just swing a bear trap like that.
It's innovative. And he hits her in the back and he kind of like pulls it. So he's dragging her towards him. And at this point, the other Buckners are holding Kurt up, so Kurt can't move. The one kind of holds up Jules.
Yeah.
And they take this ginormous saw blade and they slice her throat.
They do a little more than slice her throat. They saw her head off.
Yeah, and you gotta look in at Sitterson and Hadley as they watch this scene from their command center, and they seem to be offering up a prayer.
Yeah, this is the first time they look generally, like, sad about what they're looking at.
And this is what the prayer says. This we offer in humility, and fear for the blessed peace of your eternal slumber, as it ever was. Then he kisses this trinket he has. Looks like an elder sign from like some kind of Lovecraftian game or book or something.
And then he pulls a switch, which pours blood into a bowl, which then pours the blood into an outline of something, but you don't see what the outline is
Yeah,
yet.
it looks kind of like this tableau that's getting filled in by blood. It's like an outline of something that's getting filled in by blood.
You just don't know what is being filled in.
The scene will kind of shift back to the cabin, and Marty is in his room, and he starts hearing something whisper to him to go for a walk.
Yeah, it's like, go take a walk, go take a walk.
And he's like, listen, I'm the master of my own brain. You don't tell me what to do. I'll do what I want.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go take a walk.
He's like, I'm gonna go take that walk. So at this, you can tell, like, he's breaking the fourth wall here. Mm-hmm. He's really figuring things out.
It's awesome, because Marty's, like we said, he's the only person, like, hearing these whispers or noticing these little things that are going on.
So he kind of walks out of his room, and Dana and Holding are making out on the couch.
Looks like someone has a husband bulge.
Hey. And then you get a reference where Dana's like pulls away from the kiss, and she's like, you know, I've never really done this. And she's like, well,
Yes, I have.
yes, I have. I'm not a virgin, but
it's almost like she's becoming one.
Exactly.
It's very interesting.
So then Marty goes outside and he makes a few observations. One, there's no stars. And then he mentions they're abandoned.
And that's when Kurt comes running in, grabs Marty. Marty's peeing at this point.
He's taking a piss!
Yeah, and there's a patient is coming behind him of
Shane,
the Buckner children.
Have you ever taken a piss before?
Yeah, not with the one-armed zombie creature walking behind me.
Okay.
But so Kurt grabs him, and Kurt just clotheslines Patience.
He takes this zombie out.
And he runs Marty into the door, and they try to barricade it. But before they can barricade it, what happens, Bri?
So Dana says that she's not leaving without Jules, because obviously she doesn't know what happened to Jules. So she opens the door, and there standing there is one of the Buckners with Jules' severed head. And he tosses it at Dana, and Dana catches it. Kind of look like Holden with those hands, catching it like that.
No.
She just starts to scream, obviously, and she's like going nuts because it's the first time she's witnessed a death here.
Yes, it's Kurt and Holden just jump into the door.
They need to barricade this up to make sure that patients or whoever Buckner's there, they don't get in the house. Kurt mentions that there are more of them coming. Marty mentions he saw one of them, and it's a young girl, and she was missing an arm. And then they make the connection because in the diary...
She was missing an arm, she was the one writing the diary, they realize it's the Buckner family. Once they get the door barricaded, that's when Kurt, he's the alpha now, he's like, we have to stick together, we have to barricade all the doors, barricade all the windows, and whatever we do, we have to stay together.
Right, but... that does not sit well with Hadley and Sitterson.
No, so they pump in a little more gas.
Now, we need them separated. They pump the gas just comes out of the vent and smacks Kurt right in the face. And all of a sudden, he's got a different thought. We should separate.
Yes. So they all go in a different room. So at this point, Marty's in a room by himself, realizing how stupid this is. He accidentally bumps into a lamp.
And this is really the realization something effed up's going on, because what does he discover? A camera.
Yes. And he takes the camera, and he's following it all the way up the top of the wall, and he sees it goes through the top of the cabin. And he's just like, realizing they've been being watched this entire time. And now the lab is getting a little worried because they're like, uh-oh, he's going to be onto us. But he's like, wait, here comes zombie redneck inbred person to the rescue.
They're like, chem department, you can sit this one out. We got an inbred zombie coming right towards his cabin window.
I believe it's Judah, and he grabs Marty, he pulls him through the window, he stabs him once, and then he drags him into the grave.
Correct. But not before Marty gives him a nice little smack of his bong.
That's right.
But it wasn't enough.
It was not.
So Marty's getting dragged into a grave, and what do you see? You see another tableau shot, and the blood is filling out another outline.
So every time one of these kids is killed off, they pull a switch to fill out one of these tablets. So next we go to Dana's room, where she gets attacked by one of the inbreds.
And there's one exit route, Shane.
And what is that exit route?
It's the one-way mirror.
Exactly.
That's connected both of their rooms.
So Holden breaks the mirror to get Dana from out of that situation. And that's when they hide in the basement. But this isn't your ordinary basement.
This basement's blacker
than
a normal basement.
It's got a little bit more of a chamber vibe to it.
Yes, so this is the black room that was mentioned in the patient's diary that we had before in the cellar.
This black room is just filled with torture devices, torture tools, all that good stuff.
This is where the Buckner family was being tortured by themselves.
Yes. Inbred pain family. You know how it is. So at this point, then, a flying bear trap comes from the top of the trapdoor, pulling Holden up.
And it's like holding him up. Dana has to react fast because a lot of blood is about to be spilled. So she takes like this crowbar, and she just slams it into the Buckner's face, almost pinning him to a wall.
And she just keeps jabbing it like in his eye and his head.
Yeah, she repeatedly stabs him with a knife.
And you know this Buckner is just enjoying every second of this.
We're talking about pain-worshipping redneck zombies here.
Exactly.
And they ain't no ordinary zombies.
No.
Sitterson and Hadley make that very clear.
Exactly. She actually fends him off, though, saves Holden, and then Kurt busts through a door and says, we gotta get out of here. So they run to the RV.
Yeah, and we haven't mentioned it. The trailer's actually has a name. It's called the Rambler.
Yeah.
They get in the Rambler, and they start to drive away.
And at this moment, you also find out Japan is lost.
Japan lost. The almost surefire Japan.
Yes. The schoolgirls defeated the entity, and they turned it into a cute little frog.
And it just reads fail in that bold red type.
So this is where you know the object is for the monsters to kill the person, the people. Yeah. Like, that is now abundantly clear, obviously.
Correct. Lynn calls Sitterson and Hadley. She mentions, Japan should have had this in the bag. How hard is it to kill 9-year-old girls?
He is upset.
So then you just see, like, a bunch of cities. This is not just those three. I guess these three are their better ones. It goes to a bunch of them, and they're all reading fail. So a bunch of places all over the world.
And the girl, Lynn, says, we're humanity's last hope. We can't let the ancients rise.
Yeah, they're nervous about how their director is going to react.
So now, we also realize there's, like, an ancients that are, like, the people watching this. So you don't know what the ancients are, but that's what they're doing this for now.
And Zitterson brings up, he's like, Marty is actually being aided by the marijuana he's pumping into his body. And and their chemical department has treated that marijuana.
Yes. It's very... Marty has just been smoking so much, he's, like, immune at this point. So, we go back now. They're taking the RV through the tunnel. We're still in the lab. They're seeing this. And that's when they realize, oh, shit. We never blew the tunnel up.
Yeah, and this causes Sitterson to make a mad dash for the demolitions department. And they mention him, like, we experienced the glitch at the very beginning of this operation. The tunnel should have blown up hours ago, but it didn't. So Sitterson has to act quick.
Yes, he just pulls out a bunch of things, he sparks something, and he blows the tunnel up while the RV's in it. So Kurt slams that thing in reverse, gets them out of the tunnel. They're safe, the tunnel's blown up, so they can't get out of there. And like you said, they're like, why didn't this blow up? He's like, there was a glitch. We never got the message. And you don't know why they didn't get the message yet.
They noticed this ginormous gorge, and from the way they're talking, this was probably where they came. Like, it seems like there was a bridge there, there was something there, that gap was not there before.
Yeah, exactly. Kurt is like, I'm going to jump it. And now I have a question for you, because this is the one thing I didn't get.
Where'd the bike come from?
Yes.
I'm assuming it was in the RV. You're right. I think it's funny how he just randomly has, like, this dirt bike.
That's why it's like, this movie's so good otherwise. It's like, this is the one little thing I noticed. But, like, it also could have just been planted there by the people, because they control everything anyway. But, yeah.
So revving up the bike. He's like, we're making it out of here. I'm coming back with guns. I'm coming back with choppers. And we're taking everything out for Jules.
And she's like, what if you don't make the jump? He's like, I will limp there, and I will crawl, and I will get the help for you guys.
This is the hero's moment. And the stage is set for him to clear this gap and get rescue. So he revs that engine and he makes for the gorge.
And he hits the ramp perfect and slams straight into an invisible barrier and falls directly down into his death.
A bottomless pit.
And just like that, you don't see Hot Thor anymore.
Very unfortunate. Dana's like, no, Marty was right.
We are the puppets.
We're puppets.
Because now all that's left is Dana and Holden. So the lab pulls another switch. The blood pumps into the tablet. Holden and Dana are driving back to the cabin because they have to figure out what else to do. And at this moment, Holden gets stabbed through the throat from the back of the RV.
And it's very, very interesting because he's like, delivers this speech. He's like, stay with me, Dana. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. Because Dana's mentioning, she's like, there's no way we're getting out of here.
Yeah, Marty was right.
This is all, every attempt is being foiled against us. We're never going to get out of here. And he's like, stay with me, Dana. We're going to be able to do this. And all of a sudden, like Shane mentioned, just a ginormous blade.
Scythe, something like that.
Goes right through him.
And then this leads the RV to flip because Holden was driving. Careens into the lake, and then you just see a shot of the lab celebrating.
Yeah.
And then
everybody have fun tonight.
Everybody Wang Chung tonight. And then is it the security guard or Lynn that asks? I forgot which one.
Truman.
It is? Okay, so the security guard, Truman. He's like, wait, why are you guys celebrating? There's still one left. And then that's when Hadley's like, oh, the virgin death is optional. It doesn't matter.
As long as she
suffers.
Exactly, as long as she suffers. She's in the RV as this thing is going down, and she actually managed to escape out the top of the RV, but she's getting held down by a Buckner.
Yes, which she is able to kick him, get away, swim up to the top, and get onto the dock. So you're like, okay, they succeeded, and at least one character lived. But then it's Papa Buckner.
Papa Buckner. And Papa Buckner's the guy who's got the bear trap. What does he do? He wraps her in it and starts choking her out. And, like I said, the scene kind of transitions to the command center who's watching this, and the party just come out
yes.
saying...
Hadley still mentions he was disappointed there was no merman.
Yeah.
He's like, man, I still want to see a merman, though.
And people are, like, applauding him. They're like, we love your work. We love your work. We wish we could do what you do. Clearly, Sitterson and Hadley are kind of, like, the big deal of this operation.
Yes. And that's when he's talking to the maintenance crew, and they're like... Demolition crew, sorry. And they're like, yeah, so we didn't get the memo because there was a glitch from upstairs. So upstairs is the people, the kids, and Sitterson realizes, wait, that's not right. That shouldn't happen. And that's when they get a phone call.
And Hadley goes over, and you never hear the voice on the phone. Mm-hmm. He seems very puzzled by this phone call, and he's like, everything was within the guidelines, and the Virgin was the only one left alive. And then after a long pause, he's like, which one? So right here, you know, one of them isn't really dead.
And that's when we go back to the dock. You just see Dana literally getting tossed around like a rag doll.
She is getting rocked. I think she's like vomiting blood and getting thrown around.
The big Buckner is swinging the bear trap over his head, and then you just see, ka-ching! The coffee mug turns into the bong, and Marty whacks him over the back of the head.
Knocks him down, and then I believe Dana just takes a plank from the dock.
And beats him.
Smacks him, and he falls into the water.
So Marty was not killed. So the gods, the ancients, are not happy with this.
That tableau was getting filled with blood, and he didn't die.
Marty and Dana start running. That's when Marty leads her to the grave where he was pulled down. And she's like, I'm not going in there. He's like, trust me. They go down into the grave, and that's when you see the one Buckner that pulled Marty down there completely dismembered.
Dismembered. You can see him, like, his mouth is moving, but he's, like, completely destroyed. An array of body parts.
Yes, and then you also see the electrical panel where obviously Marty messed with the electrics, which is why Demolition never got the notice. And there's an elevator.
And he thinks he can override the elevator to go down.
And she's like, should we? And he's like, where else are we going to go?
And this is awesome, because when they get in the elevator and they get it working, you start to see, as they go from floor to floor, various different monsters in these glass elevator cages.
Yes. The first thing they see is a werewolf. And it stops, and you look at the werewolf. Then it moves again, and you see apparition, entity,
like
phantom. Yeah, phantom would be the good way to put it. And then the elevator stops, and it moves again. And you see the spinning ballerina girl, who, at first it's just a ballerina girl, and when she turns around, she's missing a face, and it's just different circles with teeth.
Yeah, it's like we're looking deep into her face mouth.
Yes.
I don't know how to explain it.
And then on the other side is Pinhead, but it's not Pinhead, it's Sawhead. Instead of having pins everywhere, he's just got circular saw blades all sticking out of his head.
And he's holding the sphere that we saw in the cellar.
Yes.
So we got the ballerina from the music box, and and saw Blade Face Man holding the sphere.
Exactly. And that's when you're like, oh shit, whatever they did touch or activate would have summoned this monster instead of the Buckners.
Exactly. And Dana makes this realization.
Yeah.
And she even mentions, that whoever orchestrated this made them choose how they would die. And she just starts freaking out. She starts banging on the glass where the Sawman, who's ever quiet, just stares at her. You see the camera pans out.
I love this scene.
And you see all of the monsters in this facility in their respective glass cages.
You see, like, the robot from Chopping Mall. You see a giant centipede.
You see two girls from The Shining.
Yes. The Strangers girls.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And you also even see the Boomer and the Hunter from Left 4 Dead.
Yeah. If you have seen a horror movie with a monster, it's like in a box somewhere in the scene.
They have it all.
We go back to the lab, and they're like, whatever he's been smoking has made him immune to these pheromones.
Exactly. And Sitterson, he found out, he's like, we know where they are. They're in one of the glass elevators. They're coming down. And Hadley says, it's imperative the fool is killed before the girl.
Yes. They have to kill Marty before they kill the girl. Otherwise, the Ancients will not be happy. Their elevator stops. And a guard's like, stop, you're coming with us.
Got his gun trained on them at this point.
But Zombie Hand grabs the guard to distract him long enough for Marty to knock him out.
These zombies are truly undead because they literally, no matter what you do, they just don't die.
Yes. So after the guard's knocked out, you see the elevator door close, and you see the hand slowly creeping towards the guard's face.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much a goner.
Marty takes the officer's gun and his knife, and they run out.
They run and hide in the control room. So at this moment, all guards come into a giant white room that is just filled with, what would you say, like 15, 20 elevator doors?
Correct.
And Dana and Marty see that, what this movie's been building up for. They open up every elevator door.
Every elevator door is now unlocked. You hear a ding.
And then a guard just says, oh, shit.
And then all of a sudden, an army of these nightmarish creatures just come out of the elevator doors and, like, instantly just tear them all apart.
It is the fastest. You go from just guards to buckets of blood everywhere.
Yeah.
There's, like, a bat that's holding a guard up. There's a snake. There's, like, a chopping mall robot sawing someone in half. There's zombies eating people. It is insane. Such a treat to watch.
Yeah. And then you hear, like, a woman's voice over a loudspeaker. And at this point, you know that this woman is the director.
Correct.
And she says, they shouldn't be there, and they should have went down differently. She's like, I know you're confused, but you're a part of something bigger and older than anything you've ever known.
Let's just, before we get into more plot, let's just talk about some of the monster scenes that we get to see. Because there's certain ones that are awesome. I love the unicorn that just starts stampeding down the hall and just horns a guy in the gut. Like,
yeah.
You never see a unicorn as the monster.
No. It's pretty interesting to see. Just literally impale somebody. And there's also, like, gargoyles, and they're just slaying everybody. And there's more. As more security arrives, you see, like, clowns.
Yes, the clowns, like, pulling out a guy's, like, kidneys, like, laughing. You see on the security cameras, the people from, obviously, the movie Strangers are pouring gasoline on people. There's doctors performing a surgery on a guy who's, like, breathing, and they're, like, taking out his organs. It's...
Yeah.
Any horror element
They even
is
mention
happening.
doctors. Like, there's doctors that are, like, there as well, and they're, like, operating on someone. There's these guys in a jumpsuit that just pull someone down, and one just starts, like, spitting acid in a guy's face.
Yes. Oh, my God.
The director goes on, and she says it's their job to placate the Ancient Ones, and it's the group's job to be offered up to them. So now we're kind of assuming that they're being sacrificed in some way, and that they should just ask for their forgiveness and just get it on over with.
Well, all this is going crazy now. The main two lab guys that we've been following, Hadley and Sitterson, their door gets broken open, and their security guard, Truman, gets taken out by scarecrows.
Yeah, and the power goes off, too.
Yeah.
A ginormous, like, bat-looking thing kind of flies through the window at Dana and Marty, so they have to leave where they are.
So now they're running. The lab people got to get out of there. As the scarecrows are eating Truman, Marty, something blows up. Hadley falls down, and he just looks up, and coming out of the smoke, the merman.
The merman. And of course, it's like this cruel irony of the merman slowly, arm by arm, and this thing looks disfigured, hideous.
The whole movie, he's wanted to see this merman. He even says, "You've got to be kidding me."
As the merman just rips him to shreds.
It grabs his face with its mouth and, like, flips its tail up and down and shoots blood out of the back of its spout.
It's got a blowhole.
Yeah, it's got a blood spout.
Splurting out there.
And so at that point, you're just left with Lynn and Sitterson.
One thing we have to comment is how bloody this movie is. Like you see like shots of the area with the elevator, and it's just doused in blood. You do see Patience Buckner walking through.
Yes.
So she's making her way out. The guy with the spear is also making his way out. Everybody's come to play.
It's like when the elevator doors open. Obviously, monsters came out, but it's like just the blood from The Shining poured out into the room.
Exactly. Like there is blood literally everywhere.
Sitterson and Lynn are like, okay, let's get moving. A tentacle just comes from the ceiling and grabs Lynn. And she's just gone now.
Takes her right up through the ceiling.
So now the only lab person left is Sitterson. So now we basically are just down to 3 characters.
Exactly.
Marty and Dana are running, and they accidentally turn a corner, and Dana stabs Sitterson, thinking, I'm assuming it was one of the,
Yeah, well, she's on high alert.
Yeah.
And Sitterson has this moment where she's kind of like trying to move on, and he holds her. She doesn't know who he is, but he knows who she is, and he's like, it's you. And he's like, listen, kill him. And she doesn't really know what this means, but she's definitely looking back at him as she walks away, and she's thinking about it. Marty hands her his gun. She's, as she's walking, she has to be considering what kill him means.
Marty and Dana keep moving, and they end up in a tomb. And in this tomb is where you finally see the tablets.
Yeah, you see the 5 tableaus. Yes. They're outlining the human figures.
Yes, and this is where you realize the 5 figures are the virgin, the whore, the jock, the pothead, and the nerd.
Yeah.
Which is the stereotypical horror characters.
Exactly.
So basically, they were turning each one of them into a stereotypical character from a horror movie. So that's why this movie has the stereotypical elements of a horror movie, but that's because they're making them that way on purpose to appease an ancient god.
Exactly. Holden is not a nerd.
No.
Kerr is not your stereotypical jock. He's really intelligent.
Yeah, and so Dana is definitely not a virgin.
They're exactly. They're crossing archetypes. They even let you know in the beginning she was banging her professor.
Yeah, and same with Jules. Jules wasn't a dumb blonde. She was pre-med.
Exactly. So it's cool how they manipulate these archetypes to fit this
narrative that the ancients want.
It's a very meta movie, and it's so brilliant.
They're in the blood chamber. They obviously realize everything that happens, and that's when probably the biggest twist of the movie comes.
And it's not even like a twist, it's a twist, because this is where the big bad boss is going to unveil herself.
The twist is that because you didn't know she was in the movie.
Yeah, you finally see who the director is as she walks out, and it's probably one of the most notable actresses of horror.
Sigourney Weaver. Sigourney Weaver is the director, and it is a treat to see her in this film. She basically sums up the movie. She says what the tableaus are, what everything was.
She mentions that these are ancient gods, that they used to rule the earth, and below them is where the gods are. And she's like, as long as they accept the sacrifice, they remain below. They don't come up to where they are. Mm-hmm. And you can even hear the ancient ones kind of stirring below them.
Yeah, they're rumbling because they're not happy.
So the gods need to be appeased. And the director mentions that the rituals have all failed, and the sun is coming up in 8 minutes, if they live to see it. And the world will end if things remain the way they are right now, with obviously the fool still alive, not being the next one to die, for her to be the final girl.
So, Dana still has the gun that she took from Sitterson. And that's when Sigourney Weaver, the director, is saying, you have to kill him. So she's actually pointing the gun at Marty.
She has it trained at Marty's back.
Yes. And Marty's like, no, please don't. That's when you just see a werewolf creeping behind Dana. And Marty, knowing that Dana's probably going to shoot him, doesn't say anything about the werewolf, and the werewolf just starts mauling.
He just starts mauling on his good friend Dana.
And then the gun obviously comes loose.
Goes flying, and Marty and the director, jump and make a fight for the gun. And Marty's able to kind of fight her off for the gun, and he's able to shoot the werewolf a bunch of times before the werewolf just completely rips Dana apart.
Yes.
And the werewolf kind of runs up the stairs and kind of leaves the scene. And then the director just kind of rocks Marty in the face hard, kind of knocking him to the ground. And then she just kicks him in the face as they continue to fight. You see a very bloody Dana at the foot of the stairs, and she hears something quietly move down the stairs. Mm-hmm. And she takes a look at what it is and just doesn't do anything. She just doesn't want to mess with whatever's walking
just
down
let
the
it
stairs.
happen.
She tries to remain quiet as you then see that it's Patience Buckner walking towards the director and Marty. And then Dana quietly alerts Marty. She's like, Marty. And he looks behind him. He sees what's approaching. As the director rolls on top of him, she's continuously hitting him. And then we see Patience Buckner just smack her in the skull with the axe. And it actually gets stuck in her head.
Yes. Marty kind of throws her off. So the director and Patience tumble off the ledge into the gods.
Yeah, there's like a pit area outlining the platform they're on, and they're tumbling right to the gods.
So that's when Marty then goes over to Dana, who is definitely dying.
Oh yeah, she got mauled by a werewolf.
So they sit down, they light up a little weed.
I mean, why not? I mean, they gotta give a toast to the end of the world.
Marty says, I'm sorry, I let you get mauled by a werewolf and ended the world.
So he's like, whatever. And as they wait it out, you just see, like, the camera kind of zoom out of the cabin, and you see the ginormous molten hand rise up. It's, like, covered in ash.
Yep. And it just destroys the cabin, and then just slams down into the camera and the earth, and the movie ends.
And that is The Cabin in the Woods.
A movie that was, from start to finish, absolutely fantastic.
Now, what we do here on Two Guys, One Necronomicon is score a movie after giving you that scene-by-scene analysis.
Yes. Very in-depth scene-by-scene analysis.
So this was a hard one for me to score because, like, this movie's pretty, like, almost flawless. Yeah. Like, it's great tribute movie. People may view it as a parody because they may think it's making fun of horror movies, but I don't see that at all. It's like a tribute. It's like almost paying homage to everything.
I would say it's more of it's an homage movie because obviously they do the stereotypical like characters, but like you see all the different creatures, and it's not like they make fun of them. They show them like killing and all that.
I mean, this has got everything. It's hot.
It's hot.
It's passionate.
Yes.
The story is great. It's unique. It's an original script for sure.
It's funny as hell.
So
and not
funny.
like unintentionally funny. It's funny where it's supposed to be funny.
Casting is great. I mean, honestly, everything is great. I gave this movie an 8 out of 10, but it's like the strongest 8 out of 10 I can possibly give. The only complaint I have is that this movie isn't longer because it's that good.
Is that why it stopped it from being a 9?
Yeah. If you want to get to the nitty gritty, there's really not much to critique. You could say maybe things happen a little too fast in the beginning, but like honestly, it's blended so well it doesn't matter. It's like it's a tremendous 95-minute movie.
Because you're not supposed to really know. You're only supposed to know the gist that like they're not these stereotypical characters. So when they start becoming these stereotypical characters, you're like, oh, like why is this happening? I gave this movie a 9. I absolutely love it. It's probably top 10 favorite like horror genre, like horror comedy genre.
Yeah, it's easily in my top 10 horror films
that
have come out within the past like decade.
Oh, without a doubt.
For sure.
Movies like this, or like It Follows, or The Descent, Goodnight Mommy, things like that, like in the last decade are fantastic. Hereditary, obviously.
So I gotta give a shout out to the wonderful casting. This was done by Anya Koloff and Amy McIntyre Britt for just casting this set of 5, and especially Jenkins and Whitford, who were just kind of guide the overarching scheme of this movie, and they're just freaking fabulous, man.
Also, whoever cast Mordecai.
Yeah,
the guy who plays Mordecai is so good.
Every horror movie has a Mordecai, and he delivers, man.
You don't want to go to Camp Block.
Perfect. So this is your crazy Ralph from like Friday the 13th.
Exactly.
You're doomed.
Yeah. You're doomed.
He's like, the old Buckner place? Yeah. I've seen many come and go to the old Buckner place.
It's incredible.
But yeah, no, it's great. And how they blend this meta, the Harbinger, and the 5 archetypes, the jock, the virgin, the fool, the nerd,
and the whore.
And the whore, yeah. It's just, every movie has one. And Sigourney Weaver makes a good point. She's like, at least 5. Recognizing that,
there's other movies that have more characters, but...
And she refers, like, to the ancient gods. It's, like, almost like if we are,
I think that's
the ancient gods.
Exactly. So, like, if we don't get those stereotypical characters, we're like, this movie sucks.
This is what we're used to. This is what we want. And if we're not getting it, we are literally just done with this movie and we're throwing it out.
Which is why I love that this movie does it, but it's like in a completely different way. It's like, it's so clever.
God, I'm going to change this movie to a 9. Just thinking about it right now. This movie's a fucking 9.
Of course it should be a 9. It's so good. It's so entertaining. Even if you don't even analytically think about it, it's just an entertaining movie to enjoy.
Before we wrap up, we really need to talk about all of the monsters. We talked about some of them, but I did a deep analysis into everything that's on the whiteboard.
Okay.
And not just, I shouldn't say everything. Everything that a department bet on.
Okay.
Meaning to see how big this place actually was. You only see a few scenes of this actual place. But this is what...
Okay, I actually want to hear this. Let me see.
Biomed, they bet on the alien beast.
Okay.
The Wranglers, I don't know who the Wranglers are, but they bet on the angry molesting tree. The Bride, digital analysis. Electrical bet on the clowns. The story department bet on the deadlights. Accounting bet on the doctors. Kitchen staff bet on the dolls, and you actually do see dolls in the cellar.
Oh, is the deadlights? Would that be like if they summoned it?
Maybe. Yeah,
Interesting.
Maybe. A zoology bet on the giant. You remember the one guy who's like in the zoology as a giant? It's like, do we even have these? Internal logistics bet on the giant snake we saw.
Yeah, that gets
Sitterson, that old dog, bet on Hell Lord.
Oh, that's got to be the guy with the saws in his face.
Probably. R&D bet on Lord Huron. I got nothing. The security force bet on Jack-O-Lantern.
Okay.
Hadley bet on Merman, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
Psychology bet on the Mummy. Demolition bet on the mutants. Administration bet on the reanimated. DNA archives bet on the scarecrow folk. These are the guys that Mark Truman.
Yep.
Archives bet on the sexy witches. Communications bet on the snowman, which we didn't.
No, we didn't get to see that.
Engineering bet on the unicorn.
Incredible. I would love to know how you summon the unicorn.
I know. Maybe there's a horn down there.
Yeah, that's a.
Distribution bet on the vampires. Finance bet on the werewolf. Operations bet on the witches. Obviously, as we know, and this is the one that came to fruition, yep. Maintenance and Ronald the intern bet on the zombie redneck torture family, which also chemical bet on the zombies.
One thing I didn't mention about Ronald the intern is when all the hell is breaking loose and you see all the different security cameras, Ronald the intern is holding a sign that says something. I don't know what it said.
Yeah, he's like trapped. He's like trying to get out.
He's trying to get out, and then he flips the page, and there's a second sign. My eyesight sucks, so I don't know if I was able to read it or not. But I would love to know if you could, what he actually said.
So what do you think about the ending of this movie?
Now you mean the ancients rising and taking
even
over?
Before that, Dana and Marty having that kind of conversation at the end. Mainly that Marty had a chance to step up and be a hero here, but it's almost like he's playing his archetype of the fool. He's letting the world get devoured.
Well, here's the thing, though. At the beginning of the movie, Marty says maybe the only way to fix the problems of society,
the cracks of society,
is to tear it all down and start over. Yeah. So maybe in his own way, his own conspiracy way, he thinks letting the ancients come back,
and this is rewriting the meta of horror movies. I think is
taking over. Yeah, is essentially rewriting everything.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think I love how everything was set up in this movie. Jules' hair, the pot, each character, not being your classic typical horror movie character, but being forced to be that through the chemical department.
That's why I love Holden, because Holden's introduction is just the catching of the football and saying he has great hands, and then half hour later he's just got glasses and he's all meek and he's
also Jesse Williams. This dude is super hot. I played as him as in Detroit Become Human.
I still gotta play that game.
This is crazy. But yeah, this movie is absolutely incredible. Me and Shane, I just changed my vote to a 9 out of 10. Give it a 9 out of 10.
Let's go. I'm glad you did it.
Before we end, I got some trivia.
Okay. We always do it.
So Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard, who wrote this movie, they locked themselves in a hotel room over a weekend and wrote it in 3 days.
That's impressive.
That's insane.
That's very impressive.
So the opening sequence of the movie was intentionally put in the movie to throw the viewers off about what they were going to watch. It just looks like a bloody mess of people being sacrificed on altars. While there's a ritual, it's nothing to do with putting people on altars. It's nothing to do with a cult. Also, what's interesting, on the whiteboard, nobody bets on this, but there's a monster listed as Kevin. And this is a reference to Elijah Wood's character in Sin City, the graphic novel and the movie. He plays Kevin, who's this cannibal.
I hate that movie.
The movie is literally a 10.
It's a 3 out of 10, but So we've noticed that we've had quite a few people listening from the country of France. So that's why next week's movie, we're going to do a French horror film. We're going to be reviewing High Tension.
An ode to slashers, like a new age slasher. We're doing High Tension.
It is a very interesting movie.
It's going to be a wild ride, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So please make sure to catch us at 6 a.m. on Monday on all of your streaming services. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, everything.
So we will see you next week, Monday, 6 a.m. in the French countryside.
Well, this is it for Two Guys, One Necronomicon. Thanks for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to visit our Twitter page, our Facebook page. Follow us, give us a like. We'd love to hear from you and talk horror movies.